You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mag Morning Show on KNBR, and tonight, Steph Curry, you are ridiculous. He went absolutely bananas today as the Warriors rallied for a second half comeback to win against the Orlando Magic and start their 5-game road trip off to a perfect beginning. Steph posted 56 points, splashed in 12 threes, completely decimated the Orlando Magic, and 22 of these points came from another patented third quarter Curry Flurry. He had multiple huge shots down the stretch to help clinch this win, free throws on point. He even received audible MVP chants on the road. We will break it all down, but first I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. What are you doing? Turn those notifications on. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed and making us your first listen following these Dubs games. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And I really hope you put that first $5 bet on the Steph Curry over tonight, man, because, oh my God, this guy, let's just pick it up right at the third quarter. Because Steph, he had a pretty solid first half. He had 20 points, 5 of 7 from three. But the Warriors were losing. They never led in that first half. And the Magic just shot the cover off the basketball. But in that third quarter, Steph Curry just went absolutely bonkers. And before I get any further along, I do want to say, Danny Dunn, my former coworker at KNBR, when I was still there, Danny and I did the night show a lot together, and he was the former producer for the midday show with Greg Papa and John Lund. And I'm hearing some rumors he might be headed back into the building over there down at 750 Battery. So Danny will be joining us in just a few moments. But first, we got to just recap this game, man. Steph, in that third quarter, just continues to go bananas. I mean, he had 21 in that first half. In the third quarter, 22 in that quarter all by himself. And the Magic, I mean, they couldn't do anything to stop it. I mean, the Magic played a great game in that first half. They shot over 60% from the field and amassed a 17-point lead at one point in time. And the Warriors did not care. Steph Curry said, I'll see your 17-point lead, and we'll swing that back for a 13-point Warriors lead. They ballooned it to 13 in the fourth quarter, got up to 12 in the third during that Curry Flurry. And, man, it was just monster bucket after bucket after bucket from Steph. And you heard the crowd, too. The crowd started at a low rumble in that first half when Steph was starting to get going. By the time that we're in the third quarter, in the midst of that Curry Flurry, the crowd sounded like a home crowd. Steph is taking heat check threes, and you're hearing the crowd start to get up for it and hear the bated breath of the collective gasp. And then when the shot didn't go in on the one shot that he missed in that third quarter, that one heat check three where it just would have been an ultra high degree of difficulty. He was on the left wing and had a fadeaway shot from 28 feet out, and it almost went in, but it didn't end up falling. But you heard the crowd kind of go, oh, and have the collective letdown. And that was just kind of bonkers for me to hear. I mean, we've heard Steph have all these huge ovations on the road so far. He had one, I believe, in Chicago on their last road trip where a bunch of fans stayed around and hung out in the lower bowl to kind of cheer him on during his post-game interview. And he kind of stood there taking it all in. I think it was in Chicago. And he had a very similar thing happen to him tonight. All the fans in Orlando just showing Steph the love, man. And it was actually in Houston. I remember this because it was very surprising to me that it happened in Houston with the Rockets. And so I don't think that was the last road trip. But no, point being, Steph is getting all the love this season on the road, and fans are letting him hear it. And that is just NBA. It's not even Warriors fans. It's Steph Curry fans. The way that this guy has impacted basketball as a whole, the NBA as a whole, just completely bonkers that this guy, this little guy from Davidson is just changing the league day by day by day. Let's go through some of the accolades that Steph now has since he got this 50-burger game tonight. He now has, it's his third game with 12-plus career threes. He's had 9 or more threes 45 times in his career. That's by far the most in the NBA. Next closest is Dame Lillard with 14. He's had 9 50-point games after the age of 30. That's also the most in NBA history. Next closest is Wilt Chamberlain with 7. And any time that you take a record away from Wilt Chamberlain, that's notable. That's absolutely something to write home about. And it's not really a cherry picked stat like some of these other things can kind of come across as. It's also his 14th 50-point game of his career, second most in franchise history, tied with the great Rick Barry. And man, oh man, Steph, it was honestly, it might have even been more impressive than the box score looks. Steph was just letting everybody have it. The Magic were double teaming him starting in the third quarter, and Steph didn't care. He still just kept scoring. Didn't matter. He was just shooting the ball before anybody could get a hand up in his face, shooting over the contests. And man, oh man, was he so fun to watch. How lucky are we to be able to watch this guy still do what he's doing at age 36? Like, just reflect on that for a minute. Like, whoever your favorite basketball player of all time has been, they have not given you this. Like, this is a very uniquely Steph Curry thing. Like, Kobe, we didn't see him doing this at the end of his career. Michael Jordan took some years off at the end of his career, came back, was okay with the Wizards, but definitely didn't look the same. Steph is just another beast, a completely different type of player than those guys. Obviously, he's shooting. He's taking a lot less contact than those guys did in their careers, not driving into the lane as much, but it doesn't, none of that really matters to me. The fact is that this guy is still, all NBA level, like first team all NBA level point guard at age 36. And there's only one other player in the NBA that can really say that, and that's LeBron James. And when Steph and LeBron are going to be forever linked by a lot of these things, and it's so impressive to watch this guy do what he does. And he's not physically imposing. Like, he doesn't have the stature of a LeBron James. He's not like the perfectly sized NBA player that you could like craft in a lab. Like, he is a scrappy dude who gets out there and knows how to shoot, knows how to get open, and knows how to feed off of what his teammates are doing. And Steph talked about that post game. Said that he was thriving off the energy of the road crowd, which is completely bonkers. Said he took a collective resilience to win that game because the Warriors, as we said, were down 17 points at halftime. And one thing I do want to point out, we've talked just basically about Steph. We got to talk about Quentin Post a little bit too. He had a pretty solid game supporting Steph, being that number 2 scorer. But Jimmy Butler, man, the Jimmy Butler effect that just absolutely gives everybody on this team belief that you can continue to come back from anything that is thrown at you in this league. If the Warriors pre-Jimmy Butler were down 17 points at halftime, you think they have a snowball's chance in hell at a comeback? The answer is absolutely no. But with Jimmy Butler on this team, the demeanor is different. Like, the attitude is just different. Steph even said on the postgame, they have a swagger now. They show up on defense, and they have just enough offense to get over the hump most nights. Jimmy provides a great presence and a high-level IQ, and it's so fun to watch this team. I have so much fun just watching Warriors basketball again, and that's something that I didn't have for quite a while this season. I know a lot of other fans also were not really enjoying the vibes that we had at the beginning of this year, but the Warriors, since the Jimmy Butler trade, are probably the most fun team in all of basketball. And Steph even said, you got to take it in. He said, with every gray hair that pops up on his head, he appreciates these moments more and more and more, and he just wants to soak it all in. Steph made sure to grab that ball at the end of the game and keep it, something he very, very rarely does. And man, I'm so excited to be able to watch fun winning Warriors basketball again. And my God, this has been such a fun game. And I'm just taking a look at the chat. And Sutha is saying that maybe the tech on Carter killed off whatever lead Orlando had in the third. That was actually a very big moment in this game. Draymond Green got called for a defensive foul on Wendell Carter when he drove the lane, went up for a layup and made the bucket. Draymond was called for the foul. Draymond very demonstratively starts doing the replay review wave with his arm, like in the official's face. 22-year vet that official is, so he wasn't going to be quick to tee up Draymond. They go to replay review, and inevitably, Draymond's right, as he honestly usually is in those situations. They called the offensive foul, overturned it from a defensive foul to an offensive foul. Carter got him with the offhand, and Carter actually picked up a technical, as Sutha, my guy, pointed out, or girl, I'm not sure, pointed out in the chat. And Draymond, that was a huge play. That was a huge momentum shift in this game. The Warriors, I believe, had a 5 or 6 point lead at that point in time. Steph sank the technical free throw, obviously, and the Warriors continued to go on to win. And speaking of free throws, again, the same thing that's been happening with this team has continued to happen. Warriors 30 of 34 from the free throw line tonight as a team. Steph 12 of 12 from the free throw line. You already know. And in 30 of 34, 88.2%. This is the team that was by far the worst at free throw shooting in all of the NBA coming into this one. And they limit the turnovers. Again, they win the turnover battle, +6 in that category. The Magic couldn't have played a better game in the first half, and the Warriors still somehow, some way, pulled this one out. And it's all thanks to Stephen Curry. We got a lot more to talk about in this game. We'll get to Quentin Post and what he was doing a little bit later on. But on the other side, we got my old friend Danny Dunn waiting in the staging room. We got to get him on, and we'll talk about this game with Danny. That's what's coming up next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your bets into a same-game live parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my favorite team for a late game rally or picking Steph Curry to hit a clutch three, I've never felt like I've missed my chance. Plus, the app is so easy to use, and when you win, you get paid right now, instantaneously. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and I am now joined by my guy, Danny Dunn, Double D, Danny Dunn. It was Double D and Triple E back in the old days at KNBR on the night shows. And Danny, I'm hearing some rumblings you might be headed back to 750 Battery to rejoin the old crew. How you doing, man? How's it hanging?
Eric, first of all, thanks for finally having me on the Locked On Warriors podcast, post-game show. Really appreciate it. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I mean, it's hard to be doing bad when you're watching the Warriors do these things. I mean, GP2 even said it after the Warriors' last win. It's just vibes. It's all, I mean, he was talking more specifically about Jimmy Butler in that quote, but just in general, it's all big vibes right now in Warrior land, on Warriors ground, and even out there in Orlando, which basically has become, or the East Coast has become Warriors ground in recent weeks, the way that they're playing with Jimmy Butler on this team. And before we get into the Jimmy effect on this team, I just want to kind of go over some stuff with you from tonight's game. And I mean, Steph just absolutely bonkers tonight. I mean, we already went through all the accolades that all the achievements that he ran into tonight with the 12 threes and becoming his ninth 50-point game after the age of 30, his 14th 50-point game of his career, 9 or more threes 45 times, by far the most in the NBA. Next closest is Dame with 14. Danny, how is it possible that Steph Curry is still doing this at age 36, man? Like, how has he turned from what we saw earlier this season, which was just a volume scorer? He was shooting like 25 shots a game and scoring like 23, 24 points. And then tonight, the 56 points. And dude only played 34 minutes and took 25 shots, man. This is a completely different player than we saw earlier this season. What changed?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you the magic elixir for looking about 10 years younger, because I did some of it. I have some trouble getting off the ground sometimes here. But no, it's got to be it's Jimmy Butler. You know, the Jimmy Butler effect. I heard you talking about it a little bit earlier. He gives this team so much confidence, including Steph Curry. Whereas on a night like this, let's just say it was pre-trade for Jimmy Butler, it would have been a night where Steph, was anchoring the team, and he would have been like, man, I got to do it all again in the second half. And that's where you see the high volume shots come in. Whereas if you have a guy like Jimmy Butler on the team, it's like, okay, so he's still gonna get guarded. Maybe Butler will get double teamed on certain possessions, leaving Steph Curry open and more free to do what he does best. And I just heard Steve Kerr post game show. I heard a little bit of it, and he said that Steph's not just a scorer; he's a great performer too. And then the way he plays basketball just looks so beautiful out there. And I'm glad he's still doing it at age 36.
Beautiful basketball. One of my favorite quotes from our time at KNBR. And man, like Kerr hit it right on the head there, man. Like Steph Curry It's just, this is one of those nights where you just kind of sit back and you just watch and just absorb the greatness. Like, you just take it in and bathe in it, just bask in it. Because as Steph even pointed out himself post-game, and has pointed out continuously over this season, talked about it at length during multiple All-Star break interviews, the end is near. We all know it. The writing's on the wall. He knows it. Like, we all know this is the last push of the Warriors. The Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Steph Curry push. This is it. This is what we're going to get at the end of Steph's career. And I mean, I don't know about you, man, but every game that goes by, I believe Draymond Green a little bit more. I mean, I'm looking around at the Western Conference, and there's some teams that, I mean, don't get me wrong, OKC is formidable. They're huge on the inside, especially with Chet. The Lakers are going to be a tough team with LeBron and Luka. And of course, Nikola Jokic, you can't write that guy off. But shy of those three teams, the Nuggets, the Lakers, and OKC, there's nobody in the West that I think that the Warriors, like, I think they would be favorites in any other playoff series against any team in the West other than those three. And I do think that they got absolutely a fighter's chance to beat any of those three teams in a 7-game series. How are you feeling about Draymond Green's flag plant declaration from All-Star break that the Warriors are going to win the championship?
I feel a whole hell of a lot better of it after the 7-1 Jimmy Butler start. I'll tell you that. It feels amazing out there. Like, it feels like it did, 5-6 years ago when the team had Kevin Durant, obviously, and Klay Thompson, the 4 All-Stars. But it has that feeling again where it's like, it's either, if you're having a rough game like you are today, where the offense wasn't clicking, the defense keeps you in the ball game, and then you have a Curry flurry in the third quarter, or else the other way it usually goes during this little run is that the game is over by the third quarter. And that's the exact feeling of how it was in the glory days of the Warriors. So I feel really good. I'm actually really hoping for a Warriors Rockets first round. I'd really like to see that, the young up and coming team. And then, you get a little bit of Dylan Brooks in there for the heel factor. I'm hoping for, the blueprint of the Rockets, Grizzlies, then OKC. Kind of like how it was in one of their title runs.
Yeah, and don't forget, we just passed the 9-year anniversary of the Steph Curry amazing shot in OKC that we've all
bang!
exactly the double bang and all that, and Steph seems to always, as you said, Kerr pointing out that he's a great performer. Steph always seems to rise to the occasion, and you could kind of see him getting the crowd into it too, which, I mean, that was one of the most striking things to me about this game was Steph like feeding off of the energy of the road crowd and engaging with them, like waving them on, like pumping them up. And I mean, this is just so fun to watch. I mean, I really do. You were saying that you find that you're seeing this as similar to a couple years ago when they had Durant and all that. One other similarity I see to another team that in Warriors past is the 2021-2022 NBA championship team. And obviously that team was made up a little bit differently, but the way that team just flipped the switch around this same time of the season, like end of February, early March, the way that team was able to just flip a switch and go all the way to the end. And they proved to themselves and to everybody else, they know how to do that. There are very few teams in all, not just the NBA, but all of sports that can just decide to flip a switch. But if you're asking me, this is one of those teams that fits into the category of they can absolutely flip that switch when they want to. They know when the time to do it is. And I think we're seeing that right now. And I mean, how impressive is it to you that these guys at age 36, Steph Curry and Draymond 34, I believe, if I'm right there, and Jimmy Butler also in the back, the twilight of his career, the back half of his career, all these guys know how to win. How impressive is it to you that they can just flip that switch and just turn it on right when they know they need to?
Yeah, well, it's almost not that as impressive that they're doing it at this stage in their career, because you know that they're capable of it. It's more so to me like the younger guys starting to step up now. Like, Quentin Post did not play.
Oh, man.
Like, he did not play. Like, people were joking before the draft, like, we're not going to see this guy for a year or two. And it's like he's playing critical minutes for this Golden State Warriors team, and he looks like he's going to be in the rotation for the playoffs. And it's amazingly, like you were saying about the Jimmy Butler effect on Podziemski and Moses Moody. All of a sudden, they're guys that are getting it going. Moses Moody, for portions of the season, was out of the rotation again this year after getting the 3-year extension, but he he looks like he's going to be a starter going forward into the playoffs. And Podziemski has figured something out. They both had off games tonight, and it doesn't come as a surprise that their off games coincide with Jimmy Butler's off games. But yeah, the older guys flipping the switch doesn't strike me by surprise as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Without the young guys and the rest of this roster coming along, without Quentin Post, I mean, by the way, 18 points for Quentin Post tonight, led the Warriors with a plus 22 plus minus, and 2 of 4 from three-point land, 7 of 9 from the field in 24 minutes. This guy has become so consistent for the Warriors. I always hear Bob call him the postmaster. I'm going with the Dutch master, man. I'm taking Tim Roy's nickname for him. I mean, any reference to the Dutch, I got to go with that one.
I see you stole Fitz's line too, and then your tag up there where it says "Postman delivers." That was
I did.
Game. I was like, oh my god, here we go.
But just one thing I want to run by you, Danny. I heard a certain Brian Murphy drop a comparison the other day. Quentin Post, a 7-foot plus Ethan Hawke. What do you give me for Quentin Post being a giant version of Ethan Hawke lookalike kind of thing out there? What's the vibe you're getting from that, Danny?
I did not hear that, but I definitely need to see a photo by photo comparison. I didn't. Is that something that has been going around, or is that just?
I think this is just Murph getting in his Murph brain. He said it on the Polymac Particles show the other day. So of course, Murph and Polly together, they're going to get into all the peripheries and all that. But I mean, it's just.
But I digress.
Exactly. It's just so fun to watch this guy out there gelling with the team, and as I feel like we are like obligated to state, just as Fitz, I'm sure, is like contractually obligated based on how often he states this, the 52nd overall pick in the draft, making a big impact on the Warriors. And it's so impressive to look up and down this roster and see what they've like, who is giving these guys these minutes. As you said, Quentin Post wasn't expected to really give the Warriors anything this year. Gary Payton II, we've already been down this road before, but dude was undrafted. Dude took a job in the Warriors video room just to stay in the building. Like, he didn't even have a basketball playing related job just because he wanted to be in the building in case the chance arose. You got Guy Santos, who I still remember when you and I were on the night show. Dieter Kurtenbach would just absolutely lose his mind anytime somebody mentioned maybe Guy Santos could turn into a real NBA player. And lo and behold, look at the energy and the second chance points that he has given the Warriors this season. Guy didn't really have a great game tonight. Only scored 2 points in 7 minutes. But you look up and down this roster of guys who are contributing, and then you throw in a guy like Kevin Knox, who was jettisoned from the NBA. He's been toiling away in the G League, former top 10 overall draft pick. And this guy, I mean, look what he did in their last game where he threw down that massive alley-oop, had a stat stuffer type night. And then you even got lacrosse guy, Pat Spencer, out there giving the Warriors some solid minutes when they need it. This team, the way that they are winning, the way that they are getting production from these guys is so impressive to me. But I want to loop it back to the Jimmy Butler effect, because I want to know from your perspective how, like, Jimmy didn't have a great game by any like measurable standard. I mean, you could argue his defense was really good. His passing was pretty on point today. He had 7 assists, but Jimmy, -7 plus minus, only 5 points on 1 of 7 shooting, 0 of 3 from the 3-point line, 4 boards. Like, this wasn't Jimmy Butler's best game. He even missed a free throw in this one. Wow. But yet he still impacts winning. And from your perspective, how was Jimmy doing that out there tonight?
Yeah, so I think that he impacts the game, like you said about the assists. He gets people involved when he himself doesn't have it going on. But it's just the way he conducts himself on the court. When he's having a bad game, you're not going to see the slouching. You're not going to see the my night's off, so I'm going to throw everybody off here tonight. He's not going to do that. He's going to stay professional. He's going to continue to do his business out on the court, and guys see that defensively, even though he's not having a great game offensively. And I think they look to that and they say, hey, if this guy, seasoned professional, all-star, been to 2 finals, if he's still conducting himself with the utmost professionalism out here, then I will too.
And man, I just keep thinking about GP2's quotes from his post-game interview, not tonight, but their prior game on Tuesday, where he was asked about Jimmy and the vibes since he joined the locker room. And he said, just big vibes, man. He's big coffee vibes, candle vibes, like Erica Badu vibes, Lauryn Hill vibes, Jill Scott vibes, like very like cool, calm, collected, just a swagger about him. And that's what I think you're hitting on right here too, is that Jimmy Butler just carries this, as the kids would say, this aura about him that just permeates into every other aspect of this team. And it is so fun to watch. And
just as long as he doesn't change his hair like he did in Miami. That's
hey, I'm totally good with ball out boy. Jimmy Butler hair, like, the emo swat.
I don't need the Rachel cut on my team.
Well, Danny, last question I got for you is, did you expect this Jimmy Butler trade to really change this team in the way it did? And I mean, I've heard a lot of different things about it. I even heard your former guy, John Lund, saying that we all need to pump the brakes on Jimmy Butler with the Warriors, and all it is a good start since he joined the team. I'm completely in the other camp. I was 100% on board with this trade from the beginning. I honestly didn't think it would fill all the voids that the Warriors had. I still thought that they might need to go get a big, but the impact that he's made on all these role players has kind of made it so you don't really need to get another one. My question, Danny, is did you expect this when the Warriors went and got Jimmy Butler?
I did not expect this immediate of an impact, just from a standpoint of how underwhelming the Warriors were this year at times, where it just seemed like they were just the quintessential 500 team. But if you would have told all Warrior fans before the season, hey, we got a Jimmy Butler trade in place for Andrew Wiggins and some change right now, I think every Warrior fan would have been on board immediately. It wasn't until Butler had his whole standoff with the Miami Heat that people were like, nah, you know what? I don't want Jimmy Butler anymore. He's bad for the locker room and this and that. And it's like, whoa. I don't remember anybody ever saying he was bad for the locker room or bad for this or bad for that. You just got weary because he had a standoff with the front office. And I think that is not impacting him here. He did get paid, so that alleviated a lot of that concern. So whether he's here next year or not, he's in a good place mentally here. I did not expect this immediate impact, but I expected them to get better for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, a paid Jimmy Butler is a happy Jimmy Butler. We have seen him blow up at each one of his stops in his NBA career, in Chicago, in Minnesota, in Philly.
I don't 100% blame him for those stops because, well, Chicago maybe, but in Minnesota and in Philadelphia,
I don't blame him for the infamous Minnesota Timberwolves practice at all, where he took all the bench and just cooked all the starters and then went on ESPN before practice was even over and demanded a new contract during his hold in with Tom Thibodeau being the head coach. I get why he did what he did.
Yeah, he also just wanted those guys to play up to their potential, and it's not shocking that after he left each one of those stops, they kind of just disintegrated into thin air.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're asking me, the big question about whether or not Draymond and Jimmy could vibe and could mesh, I always thought was kind of insane, because it's two ultra high IQ level guys that just put winning above anything else, and they're both just dogs out there on the court. So I always thought this was going to work. It sounds like you were kind of in that camp too, but maybe not like thinking that it was just going to be immediate like this. But it sounds like we're on the same page here, Danny. And yeah. I do got to let you go because we're running up against it here, but thank you so much for joining. We'll definitely have to get you back on soon. And dude, it's always great to catch up with Danny Dunn. Double D and Triple E back together, baby.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. I'll come on anytime you ask me.
Absolutely, Danny. We'll see you next time, dude. There he goes. Danny Dunn, thanks so much for joining today. Got to take a quick break here. We'll wrap the show up on the other side. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. And man, oh man, I am just ruminating in how fun Warriors basketball has been these last couple weeks, man. And it's, as I said, some people want to say maybe this is just a great start for Jimmy Butler with the Warriors in the Himmy Butler era. But man, I would vehemently push back against that, because what I have seen so far, there is absolutely nothing about this Warriors run that seems like it's going to stop anytime soon. And the number of different ways the Warriors have shown that they can win with Jimmy on the team, like you've seen games where like Steph has, like tonight, Steph goes for 56. Jimmy doesn't really need to score at all in the Warriors win. We've seen games where Steph and Jimmy both don't score and everybody else pitches in. Like their last win, they had 7 different guys in double figures with Buddy Hield as the leading scorer with 16 points, and they won that game. There were so many different ways that this Warriors team can win. By the way, we do got to point out, because it's been something that I've been kind of keeping track of, this is the most points in a single game the Warriors have given up since acquiring Jimmy Butler. But this comes, I mean, the way that they limited the Magic in the second half to 49 points after they just shot the cover off the ball in that first half. They had 66 points in that first half and were shooting above 60% from the floor in the second half. The Warriors put the clamps down and hold them to 49 points. That was a big deal in why they won this game. You don't get that without Jimmy Butler on this squad. That's about all the time we got for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you're following the show on both the podcast version and the YouTube version. If you're not watching the YouTube version, what are you doing, man? Head over there, subscribe to the show right now, Locked On Sports San Francisco. So make sure you get every single postcast. I know I got a face for radio, but come on, man. Like, it's fun. It's always better with the video aspect. Thanks for everybody who tuned in today, all our everydayers. I saw a bunch of you in the chat, man. My guy Daniel, always in there, and I got to shout out my mom, Mama J, always tuning in. The Steph Curry half-court shot she was talking about in the chat, but shout out to all the everydayers, and thanks so much to Danny Dunn for coming on the show today, taking some time out of his life to just ruminate. That's the word, ruminate in this Warriors win. Fun one tonight. The Warriors will keep it rolling. They got this big road trip that continues on March 1st against the 76ers. Tip at 5:30. That game is on ABC. So make sure you're tuning in for that one. The very struggling Philadelphia 76ers. Podcast P taking a hiatus from his podcast so that he can focus on, quote, winning a championship. Yeah, good luck, buddy. You're 18 games under 500. So we'll see how that goes for them. I'm expecting another Warriors win. I'm just going to throw it out there into the ether right now. Jimmy playing a former team. I like what I'm seeing, man. That's all we got for you today. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.